Story 1. For the wealthy individuals, nothing. For the reporters or investigators, they risk being killed, just as happened with the Panama Papers. Story 2. Not much. It is not like there are going to be detailed accounts with names, dates, and crimes committed. There will not be videos. Everyone thinks it is just a massive suitcase filled with tons of solid evidence of crimes. This is not a Hollywood movie. Story 3. There is much debate over whether they are real or fake, and what has been censored and why. This is followed by little productive action to hold the people involved accountable. Story 4. The full machinery of denial will kick in. Media will be instructed to stifle key elements. A few individuals will be offered up for sacrifice. The majority of participants will be sheltered. As usual, tiered justice will prevail. Story 5. Nothing much initially. Republicans will say it is all fake, made up by Jeffrey Epstein, or too long ago for prosecution. In the next election, it might tip the scales, though. It often takes about 5% of voters. Ideally, Donald Trump will have a heart attack and die, leading to infighting among his supporters. Story 6. Nothing. So much will be redacted that any actual implications of wrongdoing by political figures will not exist. Story 7. Define Epstein files are made public. There is a lot of variability in that statement, from here are the full files in their untarnished form, to here is what we can safely release because of reason X. Story 8. I think a highly censored version will be published. It will not implicate any members of the Republican Party. The average American will shrug and say, meh, nothing there, and go back to a very special program called The Voice. Story 9. Trump will have a nice lunch and declare martial law in Des Moines, or life will continue as we have come to recognize it. Story 10. The greatest distraction will be announced. Something so unbelievable it will make nuclear power plants seem like a minor distraction and treating teenagers as adults in the eyes of the law for punishment of false license to permissions never granted. Story 11. I do not see how anything can be trusted with these files at this point. If they ever come out, which I doubt, all anyone will care about is what is missing or tampered with. There was something there, then nothing, then something again. But is it everything? Probably not. Story 12. It will be an excuse to round up Democratic Party members as enemies of the state. We will be hunted as groomers and pedophiles by the actual groomers and pedophiles. They are just building up their concentration camps and mass rendition transportation network. This is the lever they will use to declare Democratic Party members traitors. Story 13. Nothing. Do you not know? The Supreme Leader's involvement is a hoax created by the radical left, which was led by Hillary Clinton, Barack Obama, Joe Biden, and Kamala Harris. It was reportedly mentioned in Clinton's emails and found on Hunter Biden's laptop. The deep state set this up because they do not want the Supreme Leader to make America great again. Story 14. I think at best maybe a few people change their votes, but I doubt it. Donald Trump is not in power because of his moral character. Maybe if some members of the Democratic Party are involved, they will perform poorly in the midterm elections or the next election. I think in general people might be expecting too much from the files, and the letdown might have some political consequences, but I am not sure what. At worst, Donald Trump uses it as an excuse to arrest members of the Democratic Party or something similar. Story 15. They will not be. There is too much for both parties and other major figures for them ever to be released. Story 16:1. The real files will never be made public. If they have not been destroyed already, they will be. 2. Nothing. The edited versions will exonerate everyone except Democrats and the occasional Republican who got uppity and spoke out of turn, and they will not be taken seriously. Story 17. The same thing that happens every time Donald Trump somehow evades actions that would get literally anyone else arrested. Nothing. Then the worst people you have ever met will get louder. Story 18. Probably nothing, despite the fact that half of the United States Congress and a number of high-profile chief executive officers should go to prison forever. Story 19. Laughing out loud. Laughing my ass off even. Barring a leak, it will never get released. Never. We might get small parts, heavily redacted bits, at most. Here is what I am certain will happen. Small bits get released in the hope that the public will move on, but they will not. Democrats make releasing the Epstein files a campaign issue in the 2026 midterm elections. They retake the House and gain a few seats in the Senate, maybe take the Senate too. Then Democratic leadership will say something like, "We have other, more serious issues to deal with, and we already know Trump is in the files, so we are not releasing it." Then the Republicans in the minority make it a campaign issue, win big in the next election, and the same thing will happen, no files. Too many big names in politics, too many big donors, and one country's intelligence would be implicated if we knew the truth. Story 20. Nothing, because the full files will never be released. The individual will get away with everything again. Story 21. Nothing, just like every other instance of the orange individual doing things that would get anyone else severely punished. Story 22. What, if anything, gets released will be so redacted and filtered that it will be useless. The cover-up is too telling for the physical report to matter anymore. Donald Trump committed sexual assault against minors and evaded accountability. Story 23. A lot of screaming and finger-pointing. Committees. Blame. Scapegoats. Then something somewhere will explode to divert attention. I think I have volcano on my bingo sheet. The only decade volcano that has not erupted is Mount Rainier. Story 24. They would not release them unless they were heavily modified to be either meaningless or a list composed entirely of Democratic Party members. Ultimately, nothing would result except some investigations into the named Democratic Party members. Story 25. Nothing. The 1% will get away with everything while the 99% are left to clean up the leftover mess. The same situation that has been happening throughout most of human history. Story 26. Nothing. Dictators do whatever they want, and their supporters are too brainwashed to realize the truth. Story 27. Nothing. I doubt that any real information will be in them except for the people who travel to the island, and that is not a crime. The secrets will probably never come out. Story 28. My guess is conservatives will be furious because what they release will only damage some of their political opponents and leave Donald Trump unscathed, since he is actively covering up his involvement with Jeffrey Epstein and offering a pardon for Ghislaine Maxwell if she exonerates him. Story 29. Donald Trump will lie about his presence in the files. Actually, we do not have to wait. There are plenty of Donald Trump's victims who can testify against him. Story 30. They are going to have Maxwell lie. The files stay closed. End of story. He will have us under martial law by then anyway. Story 31. The files are tainted from 3 administrations of knowing about it. The real list is extensive and likely includes everyone who is anyone. The one they are going to sell us will have a few names, mostly people too old to actually care. It is going to be a scam. Story 32. People will examine the results. It will not confirm the explosive narratives they spent months or years imagining. Then they will move on and act as if it was never that significant. Story 33. Nothing has happened so far, and I do not expect anything to change after they are released. Who would have the courage to go after him? Story 34. Trump will already have been dead of old age, and everyone will say, "I knew it," including Republicans who will talk endlessly about ethics, morality, and the will of God but continue to do nothing for the living people on the list, unless that person is one of them. Story 35. Very little. It will not have the kind of details people want, and the people involved will find ways to evade it. Story 36. Depends if Democrats are in the files, Make America Great Again, Fox News, America Online, Newsmax, and right-wing terrestrial radio station hosts will have a field day. They will demonize Democrats 24 hours a day. Now, if King Krasnoff and Republicans are in the files, Make America Great Again, Fox News, America Online, Newsmax, and right-wing radio hosts may mention it, though doubtfully. If they do, they will claim it is in the past and that King Krasnoff and Republicans are doing a great job currently. They will also find a way to blame Democrats. Story 37. They will say it is all a hoax except for the parts that are convenient. Donald Trump? Never there. But Bill Clinton? This document is 100% truth. Story 38. Nothing at all. Despite claims to the contrary, some people are above the law, especially if they are rich and well-connected. Story 39. We will learn that this was about money laundering and not a person who somehow made $1 billion in prostitution. I do not mean to be cold about it, but it is not that hard to find young girls. You do not make that much money sex trafficking underage girls. It was not blackmail. If he were blackmailing the rich and powerful, he would have been killed many years ago. They would not have waited for him to get caught to kill him. Story 40. I believe if there is any incriminating evidence against specific Democratic or Republican individuals, arrests will be made and charges will be filed before the files are released, as those individuals might have already committed perjury. Story 41. Republicans will do nothing because Donald Trump was Jeffrey Epstein and Ghislaine Maxwell's partner, not their client. They knowingly helped a child sex trafficker take the White House twice. Who do people think Epstein and Maxwell got the children from? Trump's clubs, teen modeling agencies, and teen pageants. Donald Trump was responsible for supply and acquisitions, Jeffrey Epstein handled sales, and Ghislaine Maxwell managed operations. Anyone paying attention figured that out 20 years ago. Story 42. If the full Epstein files were made public, the impact could be massive, exposing high-profile individuals, sparking legal investigations, public outrage, and renewed pressure on institutions to confront abuse and cover-ups. However, outcomes depend heavily on how complete, credible, and actionable the files are and whether justice systems choose to act or protect powerful interests. Expect media frenzy, political deflection, and possible legal fallout for some, while others may remain untouched. Story 43. I hope people are held to account, though I doubt they will be. If the Epstein files are ever made public and they show that Donald Trump was involved, then people, especially his supporters, might see him differently. Story 44. The dumpster controls the money-minded media and all branches of the frightened government. We will most likely never see all of the files. Story 45. The opposite of Benghazi hearings. Benghazi Republican uproar. Pedo president Republicans start vacation early. Story 46. Once the Epstein files become public, I'm sure everyone involved will promptly apologize, take full responsibility, and there will be absolutely no attempts to dodge questions or rewrite history. It will be smooth sailing from here on out. Story 47. Fox News will spew forth nothing but claims that Democrats are the focus, so they should be mocked while never mentioning the Republicans and Donald Trump who are also involved. No arrests, just political theater for the sake of political theater. Maxwell will be pardoned because of well-known reasons involving Donald Trump. In the end, nothing will happen or change. It will just be another long story in the news with no real impact on the political world. Story 48. Not much happened when what was already public was revealed. Of course, Donald Trump was in the files. It is not like he just learned this. Someone usually comes along to these threads and posts a collection of links to what has been public already. I do not know how much is verified, but look at the Mueller report and what happened to it. The press could not be bothered to cover the actual contents, so when Trump and William Barr ignored it, the press gave them the airtime without proving otherwise with the report. Would it be any different if the Epstein files are released? Who else will be redacted from it? And what is to keep the administration from removing any proof that files have been altered further? Story 49. Anyone left-wing or who actually does good things who is named will be hounded and discredited. People like Donald Trump will continue exactly as he is now. He might lose a couple of his maniacal supporters over it. He is losing some anyway. He has a load of dodgy stuff on his record, but it has not hurt him. Story 50. We will never truly know what is in the original files. It is already too convoluted. It will be another set of files that just sit there. Story 51. The Trump administration will never release the actual Jeffrey Epstein files. Donald Trump will be long deceased when they are finally released in full many years from now. Story 52. We will select a few people who are generally disliked or disliked by the current president and imprison them. Everyone else will be fine. Story 53. It has become too politically compromised now. Even if it were released in full tomorrow, the public would not believe it to be accurate. The integrity of the evidence has been tainted. Story 54. Honestly, nothing. However, I would hope that names mentioned in those files would sleep a little less soundly at the possibility that someone might take action. Story 55. Pigs will fly, hell will freeze over, the sky will fall, one man will drink the entire ocean, and a unicorn will be made king of Scotland. Story 56. It depends on what you mean by Epstein files. If you mean a list of whom he supplied underage women to, there is nothing because it does not exist. His client list could be informative, but everyone will ignore the truly damning information to accuse their enemies of being a portable document format file. This will be amplified, if not instigated, by people in the intelligence and military-industrial complex to draw attention away from what Epstein's actual business was, which was moving money for people connected to the global intelligence community. So my prediction is that anything that actually emerges will be unspecified information suggesting someone may be involved in unethical behavior with young women. There will be no specifics about that or his other businesses. Only innuendo that will not prove anything but will validate whatever preconceptions people already have. Story 57. Okay, that is great. Please release the Epstein list. Wait, what am I replying to? I do not even know something related to Donald Trump. Story 58. Nothing. Literally nothing will ever happen. Not a single person will face any consequence. We all know this, and I do not know why anyone is pretending otherwise. Story 59. Nothing at all. Everyone who would care already knows. It is just hope and something to cling to. This country is finished. Story 60. The group will be told it is no big deal. The members of the Democratic Party fabricated the whole event. It is acceptable because of religious beliefs. Eventually, they will be wearing shirts with offensive slogans. Everyone else will not be surprised by most of the people on the list. Story 61. They will not be made public. The former United States presidential administration may release something like the Jeffrey Epstein files, but those documents will be significantly altered. Story 62. Nothing. Both sides are guilty. It is and always will be elites and politicians versus the people. Nobody will do anything because people are complacent. Story 63. As a recovering California victim, I would like to see some karma. It is time for the next generation of older white men to pay their debt. Story 64. It depends on what is in them. If there is video evidence, then some people might go to prison. If it is just names of people who flew on a plane and went to an island, the courts will not care about that. Story 65. The real ones will not be. The world has sold its soul to the rich and powerful. Welcome to the new feudal society we now live in. Story 66. Republicans will perform well-rehearsed mental gymnastics and return to supporting Donald Trump. Democrats may leave the party in large numbers if any Democrats are on the list. Republicans are likely to win the midterm elections without cheating because Democrats may prefer to give up rather than vote for someone who is not completely correct on every issue and able to solve all the world's problems quickly. Story 67. If the actual files with all the names of the abusers were released, I think it would be similar to how people reacted during the coronavirus pandemic. Some would call for the downfall of these individuals, while others would deny the information and refuse to accept it no matter what, defending them. Story 68. If they are made public, it is essentially the government saying, here are all these people who did terrible things, and we had all the evidence but did not prosecute them. What are you going to do about it? Story 69. Only their opponents will be incriminated because they removed all evidence of any conservative's guilt. Story 70. There will be a couple of scapegoats, but nobody major. There is no way we will ever see unredacted files. Story 71. Trump's team will fully release the files with only Democrats listed and possibly a few Republicans who opposed him. They will present this to Make America Great Again supporters as the complete list, with nothing else to see. They will accept it like the way Shooter McGavin eats for breakfast. Ghislaine Maxwell will receive her pardon for exposing these individuals. We are moving closer to mass civil unrest as Make America Great Again supporters become emboldened to commit acts of violence, believing they have a free pass from former President Donald Trump. Story 72. It is a long shot to hope we will get the full honest, unredacted Epstein files, But when they are released, they will likely be so redacted or tampered with that it will be as good as not releasing them. All shows and circus. Story 73. A good number of them have already been released and nothing happened. If more are released, the same will occur, nothing. Why do you all believe there is justice in this world? Story 74. It will be like the pig episode in Black Mirror. It will be the biggest deal for a few weeks, then not matter, but will always be in the back of people's minds. Story 75. The last section of hell will finally be frozen over, and nothing will happen except arguments about it being fake, missing details, or not really meaning anything. Story 76. There is a significant difference between the Epstein investigation case files and the Epstein phantom list. One consists of investigative paperwork and discovery information that does not imply anyone's definitive guilt. The other is a myth. Story 77. Not a single thing. Donald Trump was correct when he could stand in the middle of Fifth Avenue and shoot someone and not lose any supporters. Story 78. Nothing, because they will never be released. President Joe Biden would not release them, and former President Donald Trump would not release them. It is the only thing both political parties agree on. Nobody in Washington wants them to be released. Story 79. Honestly, I think if the client list is real, it would have many global leaders on it. So probably nothing globally. Story 80. Remember the consequences from the Panama Papers? The same thing is going to happen, no consequences. Story 81. About 20 people would accept what is presented to them. Everybody else will have excuses not to change their minds. Many would not even hesitate to say they read the opposite of what was in front of their eyes just 5 minutes before. This is the world social networks have given us. Story 82. I do not know about after because I am not expecting hell to freeze over, and that will have to happen before those individuals release the files. Story 83. It will be heavily redacted, so the release will be pointless. Unless it is unredacted, they have not released them. Story 84. There is no reason to believe that his followers will not forgive him for anything in those files. Story 85. I just had a very scary thought. Maybe it is the other way around and the whole Epstein file situation is a trap. Maybe Donald Trump just pretends to be against the public accessing them. Think about it, years ago he was pushing for the files to be made public. So back then, he already knew there was nothing in there that could harm him. This does not mean he is not deeply involved and clearly guilty, but perhaps he had already taken care of clearing his name. Now he is acting as if he does not want these files to be released under any circumstances, but in reality, he uses this media circus to pull the last strings for the United States democracy to fall. He loves to sidetrack. This is his go-to move. He is bringing the military in on his cause, after which there will be little left for the American people to rely on, as the Supreme Court, both houses of Congress, and all the money are already on his side. Story 86. A school shooting or maybe some kind of terrorist attack on United States soil. An earthquake, volcano, tsunami, or all three. High-profile kidnapping or death. Taylor Swift wardrobe malfunction. Perhaps all of the above. Story 87. The real ones will never be made public. Too much money and power are involved. Vladimir Putin probably has them, and the thought is that the Israeli intelligence agency does too. They have the leverage. Story 88. They will not be released. This will be used against the next president since they will not be Republican. Story 89. Absolutely nothing. The people with the power to do something about it are addressing the issue. The people with the weapons to do something about it enabled it. And the people with the anger to do something about it are being monitored by the Federal Bureau of Investigation and Immigration and Customs Enforcement. Story 90. Nothing, years of talk and some investigations. Maybe they will find a single person to take the fall, but that is all. Story 91. If they release that document, it would contain so many classified and confidential details that only members of the secure, contain, protect community could understand it. Story 92. They almost certainly will not be made public, maybe after everyone involved is dead. But if they are, nothing will happen. You probably should have known this already, but if you did not, the last 10 years should make it very clear that the rich and powerful are exempt from the legal system, with the exception of minority Hollywood stars, because an example has to be made, and it surely will not be a white male businessman. Story 93. Why have these files and findings? What is the sole purpose of having them if not to prosecute? We were fed propaganda since childhood. Police officers are your friends. You can trust adults, pastors, cub leaders, school teachers, and so on. The only reason lynch mobs were so successful is that they were backed by influential people. Police officers would not dare intervene or investigate. The same people are running the police department now. Story 94. Nothing. It has already been shown they are doing everything they can to remove the files. The relevant parties will be coincidentally removed from the lists, even though unredacted files from the Black Book are available. Ghislaine Maxwell will probably either receive a full pardon for saying Donald Trump and his associates are not involved, or she will face serious consequences. Story 95. 33% will say, "Told you so." 33% will say the data has been manipulated. 33% will not care. 1% will go on an extended world tour vacation. Story 96. Trump loses 53% of his supporters. More than half of the people who voted for him are showing voter remorse. It is likely because of serious allegations against him. Story 97. Real question. The files existed within the Biden administration for a while. If they were so damning to Donald Trump, why were they not released before or during the campaign and election? I do not expect anyone to know, but I would like to hear theories. Story 98. The Epstein files are false. Even the confirmed information. Donald Trump was Jeffrey Epstein's partner. They worked together to groom girls. His Miss Teen contests were part of it. A list of who was on a plane or similar information that is considered a bombshell means nothing compared to what actually happened. Story 99. Absolutely nothing. We are in the realm of slow-moving disasters, and everyone involved had ample opportunities to manage the information and their narrative. Nothing that emerges will take anyone by surprise. Story 100. Nothing. No matter who or what is there, conservatives will find a reason to claim it does not matter. Story 101. Absolutely nothing. All the wealthy individuals involved will be ignored, and they will lie about everything. Additionally, what is released will contain so little information that it will not make sense. Story 102. People will post screenshots and videos of Donald Trump saying wildly inconsistent things, lying about the files and investigation. Conservatives will ignore them. Eventually, Donald Trump will refer to the entire matter in a way that tries to portray himself positively. Many conservatives will look uncomfortable but follow the party line. You will see many people giving skeptical looks. Those who retire will share their real opinions, which will differ from when they were working for the party. Story 103. The Department of Justice under former President Donald Trump will pursue everyone mentioned who is to the left of Newt Gingrich but will omit and protect loyalists. Story 104. A couple of scapegoats who do not align with the current story will be completely buried, allowing mainstream media to maintain their distraction until people lose hope of reporting on the real story. Story 105. In a dictatorship, which is where we are, there is an apparatus called the dual state. The dual state is a model in which the functioning of a state is divided into a normative state, which operates according to set rules and regulations, and a prerogative state, which exercises unlimited arbitrariness and violence unchecked by any legal guarantees. Some people are above the law. Former President Donald Trump's history of pardons is demonstrative of this. We are also aware of how President Vladimir Putin's opponents were eliminated, incarcerated, or both. This is the way of an autocrat. Rest assured that all that can be known is already out. The indictment was only the completion of a long, detailed investigation, depositions, and reports. Every party involved has copies except for what went on behind closed doors and off the record. Note that Blanche did not follow protocol by having a backup present. Of course, he was friends with Marcus, who was not Maxwell's attorney during the trial. Story 106. The Make America Great Again group will focus on the names of people they dislike and ignore those they support. Story 107. Nothing. Pimps and prostitutes do not exactly keep the best records or make reliable witnesses either. This will forever be lost in the ether. Story 108. When the heavily redacted and edited Epstein files are made public, Donald Trump will try to prosecute all the Democratic Party members he added to the files, and his supporters will be all over it. Story 109. A certain group of people will cry and behave like toddlers when they see that no one in the current administration is on the list. However, William Jefferson Clinton is. Thanks a bunch for sticking around till the end of the video. Remember to subscribe, and until next time, stay awesome and goodbye.